Hey, hello, howdy, how you doing? Today's the day. We're doing the Enshrouded 100% completionist run. Why am I subjecting myself to over 100 hours of grind to do that? Well, the conversation went something like this. There I was, alone, on top of a building. I was standing 6 feet from the edge and thinking maybe 6 feet ain't so far down. But then I heard a voice in the distance.
Hello? Hello?
What? Is that what I think it is?
Ah, it is I, Enshrouded, and I would like you to play me.
And then I said,
Give us some money!
and then they did, so here we are. In all seriousness, I've been wanting to make a video on the game for a while, and a sponsorship just gave me a reason to prioritize it. For what it's worth, I wrote 100% of the script in a linear fashion, meaning I wrote as I recorded my playthrough, so every opinion or comment in this video is my raw initial thought as I experienced it for the first time, including the rage-inducing moments of the Revelwood's Hollow Hall dungeon. If you know, you know. Additionally, all opinions are my own. There were no rewrites, no, ew, change this, don't show that, we want you to include this specifically. They basically just gave me a brief that said, here's how some of the crafting works, and here are some additions in the new update that we're releasing. Go make a kick-ass video. And I really appreciate that, because some studios try to tell you how to make a video, and those are always hot garbage. Just get to the fucking video already, Jesus. Oh, right, I'm going. To accomplish this challenge, I'll need to earn all 45 achievements in the game. These range from something simple, like reaching level 2, an achievement that 95% of all players have accomplished. And from that, there's a slight dip down to Spark of the Albany Summits, with a completion percentage of a whopping 0.4%. This is going to be a good time. Meet our protagonist, Seymour Butts, because I have the maturity of a 6-year-old. I was gonna make a fat guy named Rolando Thickens, but you can't edit their weight. All the preset characters just looked jacked as shit all the time. None of this matters though, so let's just get to the game. Our journey begins much like any other humans, by being born out of a giant canister in the middle of a vacant room. Shout out STEM. In the next room over, I became one with the flame, embracing my true calling as Flameborn, and am given my first quest, to build a shelter. Just outside, I found a chest and looted a few bandages before making my way out into the world. And by that, I mean I entered a cave and got my first taste of Enshrouded. The thing, not the game. So here's how this works. It's this fog mist stuff, and once you're inside of it, you'll have a timer on the top of your screen that kicks down. When it hits 0, you die. To make matters worse, there's nodes like this that'll speed up the rate that your timer depletes, so you gotta be careful while inside it. Up ahead, I took on my first enemies, looting them for a new sword, some shroud spores, and cloth. Outside of that cave, I found the destroyed remains of a village, so I peacefully protested some items and got on my way. Now the next objective is to build a flame altar and establish a base, but to do that, I need more gear. Luckily for me, there's a ton of shroud areas nearby, so I headed on over to continue farming the level 1 enemies, allowing me to hit level 2 and check off the first achievement of the playthrough. Immediately after that, I crafted some thread, an axe, and a pickaxe, giving me my second achievement, thus it begins. With said axe and pickaxe, I chopped some trees, picked up some rocks, and used those materials to craft a workbench for my first flame altar, landing me my third achievement, a place to call home. So the flame altar kinda works similar to the castle heart from V Rising. You place it and then build your base out around it. Upgrading the altar expands the base building range, and strengthening the flame increases the time you can stay in these shroud areas. Oh, and you can reskill all of the runes from your skill tree here. Speaking of the skill tree, did someone say PoE? Does this overwhelm you? Good, go take a Xanax, because this is much simpler than it looks. Basically, there's a bunch of different classes you can spec your character into. Things like Assassin, Tank, Battle Mage, Warrior. You just start building out to those skills. The small nodes give bonuses to your character traits, while the big nodes unlock skills specific to the class you're building towards. The skill points are those big golden things in the top left corner, whereas the runes, those smaller silver ones, are used to refund skill points or perform full tree resets, as well as upgrade your weapons, which we'll get into later on. Battle Mage sounded the coolest to me though, so that's what I started working towards. Spending your first skill point grants you the Erudite achievement, meaning in the first 15-ish minutes of gameplay, I've managed to obtain just under 10% of the achievements in the game. But Predz, why is the video so long? Well, just hold on, it gets grindy. Anyway, over the course of the night, I placed the workbench and crafted some more items, most notably the wand and the campfire. The wand obviously shoots magical white stuff out of it, and the campfire allows you to obtain a rested state and cook your food there. Much like Valheim, you can have 3 active foods at any given time, and they all provide their own specific boosts. Foods like mushrooms give +2 intelligence for 20 minutes, while others, like berries, provide +2 health regen for 30 seconds. But now, it's time to get back to questing. First on the list, find the sleeping survivor. Naturally, this means heading through the shroud again, where I almost fell to my death and had to dig a path back to the surface, which landed me with the Leave a Mark achievement. After making my way out of the shroud, I entered the destroyed town of Rookmore, to find it completely infested with these guys. They're scattered all throughout the town, and while they are a level above me, I was still able to take them out relatively easily. So the big selling point with Enshrouded, aside from the combat and survival elements, was the fact that every part of the terrain can be terraformed. And they make that a core part of the game, such as having to use explosive barrels to clear a path to the next zone. I love that. Friendly reminder to always check for chests in the towns. This comes up a lot in the video. After heading back into another shroud area, I got way too confident and took a mace to the skull, killing me. Now, when you die, by default, you lose a ton of shit from your inventory, but hold on to about half of your items. So, after respawning at my altar, I began making my way back over to where I just died, with the goal of recovering my lost loot. God damn it. With the gear finally recovered, I continued on my way to find the lost survivor. He's allegedly way up above me, so I need to find a way to gain some altitude, which is kinda hard to do when everything is all dark and foggy. On the bright side, I did find this item to restore all the time on my shroud timer. Funny enough, the path up is actually back by Rookmore, and I just completely overshot it because, kind of an idiot. Anyway, more enemies, more fighting until Oswald. He's not actually here though, because we need to summon him back at our base by using a summoning staff. Look at this demigod. He's our new blacksmith. Sure, we just kind of kidnapped him and he doesn't really have a choice, but he's here now and he's ours. Oh, also, remember those runes from earlier? Well, you can salvage weapons to earn more runes, and then you can use those runes to upgrade and enhance your weapons. I'll get into that more later on though. Oswald needs a bed right now, so it's time for some base building. It's a bit different than your normal survival craft building though, because instead of raw materials, you need to use those materials to craft blocks in sets of 100. Those blocks are then used as foundations and walls and all that good stuff. And this is where a lot of the Minecraft comparisons come in from, but don't let that fool you. That really couldn't be further from the truth, aside from the fact that both use squares as foundation pieces. Whoever tells you this game is basically Minecraft is fucking lying. Don't listen to them. They're wrong. Now, it did take practically an entire day to build out a small structure and get a roof over it. For whatever reason, I just really struggled with base building early on, but I kind of just chalked that up to the fact that I suck at base building in general, and typically rely on a base bitch when I play multiplayer. Regardless, by morning, I was finally ready to use Oswald and craft some gear, opting to grab a set of fur armor instead of weapons for now. A few more minutes of gathering materials and I was able to craft a grappling hook, giving me the shortcut achievement. After talking to Oswald again, he gave me 2 quests, crafting a glider and then revisiting the Elixir well that I was at before I realized I'd completely overshot the pathway. So, after setting up the charcoal kiln to start making some charcoal, I began making my way over to the well since I can complete my next quest while also bringing some shroud wood in the process. This time, however, I finally got to try out the grappling hook. Pretty neat. As soon as I entered the shroud, I was on the hunt for shroud wood. Now, I assumed it was these giant mushroom ball sack things, but it wasn't. Those just give shroud liquid after you smack them around enough. Gross. But no, as it would turn out, it's literally just the dead trees in the shroud. So I spent a minute or two gathering some wood before finding that necklace from Harry Potter that turns back time, almost fully replenishing my pool. Upon arriving at the Elixir well, I found it completely overrun with enemies. There's these little beetle bugs that continuously pop out of nearby spawners. The archers throw shroud bombs at you that deplete your timer faster. It's chaos and I love it. Except for the fact that I'm way too undergeared for this spot, and after only a few minutes of fighting, I took another mace to the face and died. Again. Instead of trying to brute force it, I gathered a bit more shroud wood and ran back home for the night. Once back at base, I used some of that shroud wood to craft a glider, giving me the freefall achievement. Now the following morning, I finally got to try it out while heading on over to Rookmore. Why am I going back there? Well, because I need metal scrap, and the best way to get that is by killing the bandits and looting the chests. For some reason, the only way to get guards to reset, at least according to Reddit, so take it with a grain of salt, is to return to the menu and then rejoin the server. So I did that, and lo and behold, with my newly acquired metal scrap, I crafted some nails and used the remainder to craft a forge, axe, pickaxe, and a scrappy sword. The forge utilizes charcoal and metal scraps to craft metal sheets. Equipped with a substantial gear upgrade, I wanted to see how well I could hold up, so I hit up a nearby shroud to get a benchmark. Seems good enough to me. Time for the Elixir well. After fighting my way in, I came across a return beacon. Much like those time capsules you can find, their return beacons fully restore your maximum time in the shroud. But unlike those capsules, the beacon is permanent, meaning I can come back here as many times as I'd like without penalty. It's also a death checkpoint, so if you die while in the shroud or fighting, you'll respawn at your nearest beacon that you've activated. Anyway, while taking on some more shroud foes, I looted some salt, landing me the Mole in the Springfields achievement for mining one of every valuable material in the Springlands. So far, the rarest achievement I've been able to obtain is something that over 70% of all players have achieved. But that's about to dip drastically in the next zone. More on that later though. That right there is our target. Well, kinda. Before we shred that big red tentacle flower, we've got to take on its guardian. This guy's got a big ass mace, so I tried to keep my distance with the wand and just dodge out of the way during his swings. Easy enough. Killing the Guardian gave me the Thundering Success achievement, and immediately after gaining that, I used the legendary mace to tear down the Shroud root, landing me the Well Done achievement. And just like that, we're already 10 achievements in. So what's the reasoning for destroying the Shroud root? Well, it does exactly what you'd think it would do, and removes the Shroud in the area, meaning I no longer have to worry about the timer or the fog, at least in the well itself. The surrounding area has the Shroud, but it's better than nothing. Destroying them also lands you a skill point, so if you farm a lot of these out early on, you can become insanely OP through just building up your skills and your passives. Back at the base, I used a Shroud core from the root and doubled my space to build in. Alright, one elixir well destroyed. Now what? Well, now it's time to find some flame shrines to begin on some base improvements. Along the way, I did manage to find a better bow after blowing up a hidden entrance. Friendly reminder to always check your surroundings because Enshrouded loves to hide chests in these camps and buildings. Shortly after finding the new bow, I ran into another Shroud root, so I headed on in to destroy it, only to get insta-killed because the Shroud fog was a level above where my altar currently is. Do you think this is the place? I bet this is the place. Well, not like he needs this anymore. Using that spark, I upgraded the flame to level 2, boosting the time on the Shroud to 6 minutes and increasing the passage level. For my next upgrade, I'll need 5 sparks, another survivor, and some more material. Next up, time to find some ancient obelisks. These come in quest form, but I need to find them anyway for the achievements, so let's get to it. Wanna take a guess where the obelisk is? Walking in and interacting with the center portion unlocks the Springlands Stargazer achievement, meaning this is a spire and not, in fact, an obelisk. Interacting with it again sends you up into the spire, where you can dick around and do things like find better wands. So, the Spire are these parkour puzzle buildings. You're constantly having to jump to various platforms, and if you fall, there's a chance for spikes and lava and all that. It's a really cool concept. When you finally reach the top, you can interact with the flame altar up there, which unlocks the ability to fast travel to the Spire. Now at this point, I've got like 3 side quests and the next main quest ready to go, so I opted to go with one of the side quests since it was already selected. Along the way, I found another flame shrine, so I took the spark from that since I'll need it to upgrade my flame at the main base. I also came across a new enemy, monkeys. They don't really have anything of value when you loot them, but it was the first time I came across a shaman. Inside their little temple area, I dodged a few lightning balls before leveling up again, but that's not the important bit. The important bit was that I found another survivor here, completely by chance. At this point in the playthrough, I hadn't looked up any guides or how-tos or anything aside from how to get metal scrap, so this was a really rewarding moment for me. Gliding is quickly becoming my favorite thing in the game. I'm excited to see what it morphs into when there's better gliders to find. Anyway, onto the temple. I'm looking for a cape or something here, but it's clearly abandoned, so I press inside, only to be greeted with fucking spiders. Now if you're new to the channel, hi, I'm an arachnophobe. It's not like Howie from Benchwarmers levels of panic, but long story short, when I was like 4, I was in my backyard on the swings, and a spider fell on me, and its egg sac thing hatched on my head and covered me in literal hundreds of baby spiders, and I've never been the same since. Childhood trauma aside, I know Enshrouded has an arachnophobia toggle, but mama ain't raised no bitch, so I'm pushing ahead. But just know that every time I kill one of these, I physically stand up out of my chair and walk away from the desk for like 15 seconds. So inside the temple, there's a hidden door that I activated, bringing me to this chamber. And after swinging across and activating a button on the other side, the red shroud on the floor dissipated and was replaced by skeletons. After killing them, I ripped off another jump with the grapple hook, finding a chest and looting it for all 5 armor pieces, only to find out they were purely cosmetic. At least I'm dripped out now though. There's another quest nearby, but my inventory was full, so I'm about to show you the best way that players tend to fast travel in Enshrouded. So you've got your normal base, right, with the flame altar? Well, you can drop another flame altar and commune with it, creating a second base. This can be done repeatedly depending on your flame level, but once that's done, you can open up your map and fast travel over to your main base, drop off all your gear, then teleport back to that new flame altar you just placed. Funny enough, the A Story of Rot quest was just a 2-step quest where you go to a zone and then find this mini obelisk, all for 75 XP, the same amount as killing 8 rabbits. Shout out Lenny. So remember back when I found another survivor? Well, it's time to spawn her in. Meet the Hunter. She's got 2 more quests for me, and some more crafting stuff like a drying rack, better arrows, and some scout armor that boost ranged combat and stamina. Placing the drying rack allows me to make dried purple berries and dried fur, so I threw a bunch of shit onto that and let it work its magic in the background. While that was going on, I took most of my runes and used them to upgrade my wand and misfortune mace. This can provide extra boosts like +6 blunt damage or +6 ice resistance, or mana regeneration. It all depends on the weapon and its rarity. Next on the agenda, find the Alchemist survivor. Throughout my journey to locate the man, I've discovered a homestead and the town of Woodguard. Inside that town of Woodguard, I found a purple mace and was subsequently ambushed by a group of skeletons. Initially, I tried to yeet a bunch of bombs at them, but when that didn't work, it was back to the mace. Deeper in the building, I found another set of cosmetic noble clothing. And that's all for Woodguard. Onto the Alchemist. Not the book, the guy. While fighting my way up to him, I managed to level up again, unlocking the On the Way achievement. Anyway, back to the Alchemist. I'm gonna keep saying it, but check the goddamn area after you finish the quest, because there's always some type of legendary gear or item lying around waiting for you to find it. Back at the base, I summoned the Alchemist, who allows you to craft shroud and health potions, along with fire and ice ammo for staffs if you want to cosplay as Harry Potter. There's also the grindstone and some armor that helps you with magic abilities. The grindstone is important because it allows you to convert bones into bone meal, which is needed for practically everything the Alchemist offers up front. It was at this point that I realized I needed a ton of resources for the stuff I wanted to craft. Much like other survival craft games, you need a basic item to be converted into a second tier item, and then those second tier items were used to make the tier 3 items, which is a pretty structured crafting system. But the problem with that comes when you're a solo player like me and you don't have 2 to 3 other people also looting items around you. Because of that, I took a few in-game days to just farm out materials around my base. Things like wood, mushrooms, meat, all stuff that I could set into their production machines when I set out to quest that would be ready when I came back. So originally, I was just going to play through the game and then come back to the zones to finish off whatever I missed. But thinking back on it, it just made way more sense to complete each zone as I encountered it. So instead of proceeding onto the Revelwoods right now, I chose to stay back in the Springlands to finish off the flame altars and shroud roots, starting with said shroud roots. The first one on my list, that spot where I walked in and got insta-killed because my flame wasn't level 2. This one was super easy and didn't feature any bosses, just bugs. Quick side note, it appears that even the flame sanctums reset when you relaunch your game, because I had to come out here for a quest to obtain a spark, and after relaunching my save, I can come back here again and grab another spark. Anyway, on to the next shroud route. That's 3 down, and no idea how many left. There was another unmarked location nearby, so I ran over to it expecting an Elixir well, but in reality, it was a Carpenter Survivor mission. On top of the normal Shroud enemies, this zone features a new one, these witch demon bitch things. While the wands don't do all that much to them, a well-placed fireball seems to take them out with ease. Not sure if they were going for the whole burning the witches trope, but if they were, A+. Anyway, I pushed deeper into the Shroud, mined through a hidden path, killed another witch, and rescued Cade Hawthorne, the Carpenter Survivor. I also found another Flame Sanctum while in the Shroud, so I pinged it on my map and began making my way over. This one was defended by skeletons and bone dogs, all of which I made quick work of with my mace and staff. Back at the base, I used the skill points I'd obtained from destroying the shroud roots and leveled up to unlock Sting, which increases my wand damage by 20% when I cast multiple spells. The next ability is going to be insane though. Life Burst heals you for 3 times your intelligence when you kill an enemy within 15 meters. Currently, that would heal me for 21 health, but I'd imagine that in the future, that'll scale up immensely. For now though, we'll make do with the 20% boost to wand damage, and the additional damage and armor that upgrading the mace will provide. There's an Elixir well right next to that ancient spire I climbed a few days ago, so I pulled off my own little leap of faith into hell, and got to work fighting my way to the Shroud route. Still no achievement, which means there's at least one more route out there, but at least I got some cool daggers out of it. Oh, and I unlocked the ability to craft a small backpack. Must have been when I crafted some dried fur, so instead of continuing, I headed home to craft that. But before that, I grabbed the life burst skill. Equipping the backpack gives me an additional row of 8 slots in my inventory. Next up is the side quest, A Story of Fire. This, just like A Story of Rot quest, is just finding another obelisk. Interacting with it gives me the Springlands Secret Keeper achievement for reading all obelisks in the Springlands, something that 39% of all players have completed. On top of that, the obelisk reveals all the flame shrines on the map, so I got to work hitting all those up as well. This whole process of finding and interacting with the flame shrines took about an hour, and I did it all without even having to look up at an interactive map if you're wondering how easy they are to find. Actually, most of them you can just fast travel to the Spire and glide off of it, and you'll land either directly on top of the shrines or right next to them. I did another shroud route right next to a flame shrine, but chose to come back to it later since I needed to take an alternative route to reach it. While on my way to the final shrine, I ended up finding an ancient spire for the low meadows, so I took a few minutes to knock that out as well. Alright, back to the flame shrines. There's 12 of them in the Springlands, and the most difficult aspect isn't finding them, it's remembering which ones you've already hit, because unlike some of the other markers, there's no green check mark that appears when you collect a spark from it. Because of that, it took me a good 15 to 20 minutes to realize that the final shrine was directly below the tower that I just missed, thinking I'd already grabbed it previously. Interacting with the final shrine unlocks the Spark of the Springlands achievement, something that only 2.1% of players have achieved. But we're not done with the Springlands just yet. There's still a few shroud routes to destroy, so let's get started on them. Of course, the first one I go to has a mini boss that fucks up my day. Let's try this again. God damn it. Alright, third time's the charm. See? On to the next one. Alright. That was the last one I had on the map. Everything else is just question marks, so I started in the east and hit them up one by one in search of the remaining routes. As it would turn out, practically all of the unknown areas with just question marks, not titles, at this point were just routes. Destroying the final shroud route granted me the Springland Weeding achievement, fully completing the Springlands achievement grind for me. After spending an entire morning doing nothing but hunting flame shrines and shroud routes, it was time to get some work done around the base. For starters, I have a ton of food that still needs to be cooked. With the extra meat, I overcooked it, turning it into tar because I haven't found a way to farm that yet, but it's used for a variety of recipes. With all my meat cooked, I stocked up on wood and stones, expanded the base some more, and finally spawned in the carpenter, Cade Hawthorne. With him, I can craft a better glider, another kiln, and some really cool decorations that boost the rested state in your base, similar to Valheim. He also has 4 more quests to start up, not including all of the quests from the other survivors that I've been ignoring. I should probably get on that. These consist of bringing the hunter some animal fur, searching for cosmetic items, and some exploration quests that I'll get to in a second. Giving the hunter some animal fur reveals a hidden hunting ground on your map. The only problem is that it's really far away for some of the other quests, so instead of continuing with it, I opted to focus on another quest, an eternal spell. Funny enough, I found a hidden chest while trying to loot the glass bottle on the floor. I swear, the amount of hidden chests and items tucked into these secret rooms is extensive, and I love it. Anyway, up ahead, there's this tightrope section that I managed to use to my advantage by baiting the skeletons to run into the pit under me, only for them to be insta-killed. And at the end of the dungeon, I killed the witch I was supposed to be looking for. She drops the ice spell, completing the quest and unlocking the ability for me as long as it's in my inventory. Next up, Seed of Suspicion. The farmer in Woodguard buried a treasure chest in the fields, and it's up to me to find it. Another really easy quest. Most of the yard is covered in goat diarrhea, or whatever you want to call this, except for a small rock patch under a wooden structure. Part of the chest is sticking out, so it was as simple as smacking it with my pickaxe until I was able to unlock it, completing the quest and landing me a new bow that I can scrap. While I was out here, I decided to pop into the salt mines and gather as much as possible before my shroud timer got too low. Another really nice touch in the game, most resources that I'd classify as like one tier above your normal, easily attainable materials like wood and stone. So things like salt, for example, often have POIs directly attributed to easing the grind, i.e. the salt mines, where you can just do as the name suggests and mine salt instead of looting 1 or 2 at a time when you come across a camp. Now back at base, I spent most of my upgrade tokens on small passives that felt like they'd make the most sense. Things like spending 2 points on more endurance, and the ability to have an additional stamina per endurance point. Same goes for strength. I now do 10% more damage for each strength attribute point since I still find myself using a mace and sword a lot. Really, the only combat style I haven't spent much time with would be the bows, because they just felt weak to me, but also they look dope as shit, so I want to try them. Maybe in the future. With those upgrades now locked in, it's time for the next quest, the Alchemist's Rumors. The objective for this is simply to kill everyone in the camp. After taking out the guards, I ran up to the hilltop where I found Tammy Slayton waiting for me. Check out how easy this mini-boss falls with just the wand. That's all from the last skill upgrade. Just casually doing 5 times the damage from 2 minutes ago. You love to see it. Killing the matron unlocks a better grappling hook, which can be crafted by the carpenter, and her head can be used at the flame altar to upgrade to flame level 3. With those upgrades checked off, it's back to the Alchemist questline to reach the Alchemist's Tower. This one's in the next zone of the map, and I can tell that by the fact that I can mine amber, which wasn't an accessible resource in the Springlands. Anyway, on to the tower. The mortar is in the basement, but both doors are locked. After exploring for a bit, I found myself up on the rooftop staring down the button. Now that I have the mortar, I need to go place it in the base, but I don't want to run all the way back out here again. Don't worry, because not only can you do that double altar fast travel method, but the flame altar can actually be placed indoors as well, meaning I don't need to spend 5 minutes trying to find a safe place to put it. I'm standing in the safe place. Now, placing the mortar unlocks more craftable items from the Alchemist. Things like larger mana and health potions, different ways to craft spell charges, full armor sets for healers and mages, and some other oddities. For the next quest, I'll need the farmer so that I can craft cat food, which means it's time to go kidnap a farmer. But before that, here's another flame shrine. Oh, and right next to that shrine, I found some copper, so I mined that to continue my journey to hoard one of each valuable material in the game. Oh god, they got the pigs too. Probably not the best idea to be fucking around in the shroud during the night, but at least I got some flax to show for it. The building housing the farmer has to be one of my favorite designs in the game up until this point. I don't know what it was, if it was just the red lighting bouncing off the walls or the decrepit castle vibes, but it was so cool to me. There's 3 buttons that need to be pressed, and much like the spires, you need to pass through a few obstacle courses. Placing the farmer in the base unlocks some more craftable items such as popcorn, a seeding bed, and some animal beds. The seed bed does what you'd think it would do and converts materials into more materials. So at this point, there's a ton of side quests all starting to stack up. Each survivor has 2 to 4 quests, and while most of them are only like 2-parters, some are 3 and 4, and they're all a bit time consuming. So it took a few hours to work through most of the Flameborn quests, starting with the Queen's Tomb. This location has 4 buttons to hit, 2 of which require you to shoot them. With the door unlocked, I walked down and looted the tomb, walking away with a new shield and a completed quest. Next up, Hidden Hunting Grounds. Along the way, I fought a few poisonous mushroom spider things, and collected some indigo, which I need for my wizard armor. At the start of the quest, I saw some orange shit on the side of the mountain, so I mined it for some clay, completing the Mole of the Revelwoods achievement for mining every valuable material in the Revelwoods. Anyway, the entire quest sounds like it's gearing you up to hunt some big enemy, but it's just an obelisk that marks 3 more question marks on the map for ya. While investigating one of the question marks, I stumbled upon another town, Westcott. Apparently, a hand spindle is here, and listen, at this point, I realize that's purely to make better armor for the hunter, but it doesn't really matter to me, so I was just gonna skip it. But I'm here now, so I might as well finish it off. It's another really simple side quest. You go up to the rooftop, read a book, and you're prompted to retrace the person's steps. This leads you to an abandoned hunter camp with a note, which then prompts you with like 5 more question marks, and it was precisely at this point that I said, fuck this, I'm going home. As it would turn out, I actually need to complete the Hunter's Quest to get the Spindle so that I can make linen, which is used for the next tier mage armor. Shit. While running towards the next quest marker, I stumbled upon a blue glowing cave and naturally popped in to explore, only to find a shroud root buried at the bottom. These feel like they're getting easier with each root, and I even found a new wand after destroying this one. Oh, and a massive copper node. Another 1,000 meters or so further in, and I found myself looking up at the Revelwood Spire, so I opted to stop for a few minutes and climb to the top of that. Just walking up to the spire earned me the Revelwood Stargazer achievement, which means I'm down to just finding the Obelisks, flame shrines, and destroying these shroud roots. Reaching the top of the spire marks some shroud roots and flame shrines on my map that I'll get to in a minute. But for now, it's back to the Hunter's Quest because I've been procrastinating on it for a while. The marker led me to a small cave opening with the inside littered with spiders and mushrooms. Oh, you gotta be shitting me. Don't worry, there's 3 of them, and like a million babies. Fucking awesome. On the bright side, playing Exterminator got me to level 10 and earned me the Things Come Together achievement. After fighting my way through dozens of spiders and giving myself the chills an equal amount of times, I was finally able to obtain the Spindle and bring it back to the hunter. This allows me to craft a hand spindle with fossilized bone and wood planks, and after that's placed, I can get back to crafting other cool shit like the next glider. I feel like I'm outpacing these quests though, because the only way to get fossilized bones, according to IGN, is to mine them from giant skeletons that are located in the Highlands and Kindle Wastes, which are not the Revelwoods. So while I figure out where I'm supposed to be at in terms of progression, I came to the realization that, hey dumbass, you're a battle mage. Why are you only stacking wizard armor? So, I swapped out my chest and leg pieces for the best tank armor I had available, which gave me an additional 90 health at the cost of about 30 mana, but that's fine, because I've been rocking the wand way more than the staff anyway, and the wand doesn't use mana. Oh, and I started cooking those blue mushrooms from the shroud, because while the regular ones give 2 intelligence for 20 minutes, the blue ones give 3 for 25. On top of that boost, I grabbed the Life Essence final major skill for the Battle Mage, which increases your health 5-fold by the intelligence attribute, so that extra 1 intelligence over the mushrooms turns into an additional 5 health. That may not sound like much, but if I just go with basic intelligence foods, we're talking an additional 50 to 100 health just from that skill alone. Oh, also, I'm an idiot. I was literally carrying the spindle in my inventory, but was just so focused on the food like a 600-pound life contestant that I didn't even notice the spindle sitting in my bag. Placing it completes the quest and allows me to turn flax into linen, so I dumped a bunch in and let it do its thing. With the linens crafted, I am over to the Alchemist and threw on a new hat, new greaves, new boots, boosting overall protections, magic damage, and mana regen. Alright, got some new food, better gear, upgraded weapons. Let's go knock out some shrines. And by shrines, of course, I mean getting into boss fights at random in the shroud. If only I could find the motherfucker. Any guesses, anyone? Friendly reminder to always loot the areas after you clear them, because you might just find a kick-ass elder staff. Okay, boss fight, let's do this. You know what? I'm gonna say it. I would have had him if I wasn't distracted by the auto lock system. I think if I have one gripe with the game so far, it's that the auto lock is keybinded to tab, but also your character will just do as the name suggests and auto lock on even if you don't press tab. And I know I can just rebind it, and it's 100% a skill issue, but I've already logged a good 12 or 13 hours or so in the game, and I'm used to the layout now. I don't know, this is just me deflecting from the fact that I rolled into lava. Okay, boss fight round 2, Electric Boogaloo. After emoting on his remains, I chopped down the shroud root, successfully clearing the area. One quick note I wanted to bring up to commend the devs for is just how easy and natural it feels to come across things like shroud roots while just roaming the map. I definitely had to hunt a few down, but for the most part, it's just finding them out in the wild while en route to a quest or just exploring the area, like in this instance. I was on my way to a flame shrine and walked into the shroud, saw a boss icon pop up in the top right, walked a little further and found a mine, so I dove in and boom, shroud root. A+. Alright, gushing over, back to shrines. After upgrading my gear again and swapping out my mace. Remember when I was struggling with like 2 of these guys? Anyway, shrine. I'm trying to be a little more proactive and hit them as I pass them so that I don't have to spend like 3 or 4 hours backtracking after I complete the biome, and instead just have to find that 1 or 2 that remain. Anyway, did you guys know you can just run past these guys? Oh, never mind. Regardless of that little hiccup, there's another sanctum accounted for. On top of that, there's 2 survivor quests nearby, so I headed on over to check those off as well. Remember how I was just saying how easy it was to naturally come across these things? I was gliding over to the quests, and boom, shrine. This level of world building and map awareness is something that Assassin's Creed has been trying to pull off for over a decade now, and Enshrouded did it first try.
It was perfect. Perfect.
Okay, back to quests. First up is the Carpenter's Camp. We're looking for Oswald's chest with his gear in it. There's a pile of disturbed dirt next to his tent, so I mined that up to find a warrior chest piece, completing the quest. Last side note for a bit, I promise. I was scrolling through the journal and noticed that the survivors page will literally show you, 1, where they're currently based, and 2, all of the equipment they're able to craft, and of that equipment, which ones are already placed and which ones you need to build still. There's also assistants and villagers, but I don't think I'll end up getting into any of that on this run, so maybe in a future video. Next up is the nearby building called Diadwin? Diadwin? I don't fucking know. That isn't important to me, but it's another quest I can check off. All I'm looking for here is the blueprint to craft a new building tile. Back to the survivor quests. The blacksmith needs a shelter for us to craft better gear. He sent me the location of a forge in Revelwood where I can find his old crucible, so I set that as my primary objective and began making my way over to it. Now, the forge itself was littered with bandits, including a few of these dual-wielding poison dagger guys who hit hard as shit. But even with that all, I was able to push into the cave and locate the crucible. With it safely secured in my inventory, I took advantage of the location and mined out a ton of copper before heading back to base. In order to craft a smelter, I need fired bricks and the previously looted crucible. The fired bricks can be crafted at the kiln using clay and wood logs. While I waited for those to cook, I grabbed a ton of indigo seedlings that I'd crafted a few days ago in the seedbed and placed them in a row just outside before performing some more miscellaneous tasks around the base. Alright, bricks are made, so I use those to make the smelter, which opens me up to turn ore and charcoal into copper bars. 20 charcoal and 20 ore will poop out 10 copper bars, so I grabbed all the charcoal and ore I had lying around and set the smelter queue to copper bars. This is going to take some time though, so while I waited for that, I headed back out into the world to find the remaining obelisk in the Revelwoods. Luckily for me, I already have it marked on the map, so it was as simple as gliding on over to it. Interacting with the obelisk unlocks the Revelwood's Secret Keeper achievement. This only took like 2 minutes to knock out, and that's not long enough to craft anything tangible, so I went on a small flame shrine hunting spree after farming some more shroud sacks. Pause. Those shroud sacks are going to be incredibly useful in a few moments, but until then, it's back to flame shrines. I started with one in the shroud, which I think might actually be the first shroud flame sanctum I've come across. But it was a really cool layout. Most of the normal sanctums, it's just opening a door and hitting E, but this one felt more like the Spires, where I needed to complete a few obstacle courses and unlock some doors all while fighting enemies in the shroud. It wasn't until I found myself duking it out with a mini-boss that I'd realized I'd been bamboozled and fighting my way through the Rumble in the Catacombs quest, and not hunting for the Flame Sanctum as I'd previously thought. Whoops. Interacting with the tomb gave me a new legendary wand, but I didn't get a chance to look at it right there because I was already down to my final minute in the shroud. What followed was a panicked sprint back through the catacombs, back into the sanctum, and out into the front room where I found a checkpoint that allowed me to recover my shroud timer with just seconds to spare. Only to realize that looting the crypt opened a side door that I could have just walked through and saved myself the entire panic-induced run. To add insult to injury, this wasn't even the fucking sanctum. The true flame shrine was up on top of the hill, hundreds if not thousands of feet above the catacombs. Time to make a quick detour back to base for a new upgrade. See, using all those shroud sacks I've been scooping up, I can craft a new glider with 1.5 times the range and speed of my basic glider. The copper bars are still in production, so I made plans to come back later and instead opted to check off some more shrines. In the process, I got distracted by a hidden hollow tomb POI, something that I keep finding myself getting sucked into. Not the hollow tomb specifically, but more so just these small hidden POIs that continue to pop up throughout my journeys. In total, I managed to complete 4 more flame shrines before returning to my base. The quest list is really starting to stack up though, so I think it's about time to get back to them. Before that though, it's over to the smelter to collect my copper bars. With said bars, I crafted a new axe and pickaxe, chest piece and pants with the armor, doubling my health. After equipping my armor, I harvested most of my flax plants and began converting them to linen. Alright, time to get back to questing. Starting with the closest one to me, explore the Hollow Halls. It's a quest from the Alchemist to explore the underground crypts, with the reward being some XP and what looks to be another armor set. Hollow Halls are Enshrouded's version of massive dungeons or raids almost. You'll see, just hold on. This building is really cool. It's got weird green ectoplasm lighting, and it's covered in skeletons ranging from regular grunts to brutes and mages. Not only is this building full of enemies, but there's several grappling hook spots for you to climb up into these secret portions, most of which are hiding loot chests. Most of the fights that take place in the Hollow Halls are meant to overwhelm you, at least in my experience. But if you have a two-handed mace, you can just kind of dodge and cleave your way through anything that walks up to you. Each portion of the Hollow Tomb is blocked by a barrier that can be cleared by collecting some runes. Runes themselves can be found just floating about, or tethered to enemies such as skeletal mages. The deeper you go, the more runes you need to unlock the doors, which are tallied on the barrier themselves. But that's not all this place has. No. You also unlock new bone arrows and a summoning charge called bone channels. These are charges for a spell to rapid fire bones at your enemies. On top of that, you can find items like skull summoning vessels. As the name suggests, they summon these skulls that you see the mages spawning in every once in a while down here. I did have a pretty clutch moment when, after battling my way through an opening, I grappled up a level to see an ambush charging directly from behind me. See, you can tell you're getting close to something because the first wave was hardly an ambush compared to what I ended up facing off against. It's during missions like this, though, where you can really tell that these kind of missions, or dungeons, are intended for groups of players, rather than a solo battle mage. It doesn't matter how good you are, if you find yourself fighting 30 plus enemies in the middle of a dungeon, and they aren't just grunts, the game was anticipating multiple fighters. Seriously, it was so bad that I ended up destroying my wand, almost destroying my mace, and burning through over 60 spell charges, and was still overwhelmed by a good dozen or so enemies waiting for me. And that was after fighting through well over 100 enemies just to get to that point. There's a few checkpoints within the crypt, so I was able to respawn and get back to the giant ambush room in only a few minutes. This was really frustrating though, because I'd already burned through about 15 health potions, and it felt like there was just simply too many skeletons for a single player to work through without brute forcing and death cycling, which isn't a way that I like to play games, especially survival craft style RPGs. The best workaround I could come up with was to eat berries and sit in the checkpoint until I healed up enough, and then run out to fight with my wand, since wand damage has a chance to heal me with each hit. Bitching aside, I was eventually able to clear the area, and lo and behold, this wasn't an armor set, this was a whole ass other survivor. Dope. Behind him, I accessed a loot room that landed me a new legendary wand before walking through the gates, having successfully completed the hollow halls. In total, this took about 2 hours for me to walk through, as a solo player. Back at base, I spawned in the collector, who allows you to craft a Revelwood bone key, which unlocks access to the Revelwood hollow halls. There's also some bone arrows, summoning skulls, and staff ammo. Oh, and an ectoplasm gem. Oh, and he's also got like 5 more quests for me to get through. At this point, we're about an hour in, and we're not even halfway through the achievements, so I opted to turn my focus back to shroud roots and flame shrines within Revelwood. Starting with the shroud roots. There's still a few left to find, so I got to work hitting up the question mark locations without titles, since those tend to be shroud root locations. Of course, I say that and then immediately get sidetracked into my first shroud lair, where I begin earning legendary runes upon killing some enemies. The lair itself was fairly simple since I was over leveled for the area, but I thought it was a nice change of pace from just diving into holes and chopping down shroud roots. After exiting the other side, I found myself at the foot of another cave. I entered it only to accidentally stumble into another quest where I found the soul of a farmer. Much like the farmer's survivor, you can talk to the assistant and craft anything that the original farmer can. He also comes with a shit ton of quests, and this is where you'd start to get into the process of building an entire village of assistants and helpers and just regular villagers. But that's a different video for another time. Just know there's an entire multi-hour section of gameplay that revolves around building out a literal village as you save the world. But unfortunately, there's no achievements for that, at least at the time of recording. So with that, back to shroud roots. After destroying 2 more shroud roots, I came across the Revelwood Gem Forge. This isn't all that important right now, but I'm sure we'll revisit this in the future. Until then, more shroud roots. During the hunt to clear the Revelwoods, I managed to find a legendary bow and hit level 15, obtaining the Getting a Feel For It achievement. But that's not all, because I also found a new boss, the Shroud Stalker. While on my journey to rid the Revelwoods of all their shroud roots and activating all their flame shrines, I found myself staring down a city in the distance. The place is entirely overrun with shroud enemies, and it's no small feat. As much as there is to do on the streets and in the decrepit buildings, there's also entire underground portions where you can find some gold chests to loot. As I made my way through the town beneath the castle, I checked off 2 more flame shrines and 2 more shroud roots, granting me the Spark of the Revelwoods achievement for the flame shrines, something that only 1.5% of the player base has completed. With the final shroud root in the Revelwoods dispatch, I also obtained the Revelwood Weeding achievement, bringing my total up to 22 out of 45. With the area mostly cleared out, I looted a nearby chest, landing me a new piece of armor, the Guard of the North gloves, seemingly having belonged to former King in the North, San Jno. This is actually part of a full 5-piece set that can be obtained at Pikeman's Reach, our current location. So let's go find them. The boots can be found at the top of the southeast tower. The chest plate can be found just northeast of the top shroud root. You have to go into a building and head into the basement, where you'll find a side room leading to a burial chamber. You'll find the plate inside one of the tombs. There's a ton of skeleton mages here, so just be on the lookout for those. Next up is the pants. These are the most difficult of the set, mainly because of where they're located and who's guarding them. They're all the way over in the west in this really cool looking port. There's several enemies and a brute patrolling the area that you're able to stealth around, or if you're like me, brute force through. Close calls aside, you can find the leg piece in an underground portion in the far back of the port. Just be careful because it's surrounded by bug and shroud spawners, so, you know. The helmet will have to wait. Welcome to the first major boss fight in the game. The Shroud Wyrn. I don't know how to pronounce it. W-Y-V-E-R-N. Vern sounds right. The Shroud Wyrn. This thing hits hard as shit, but only really has a few moves, and they're all telegraphed. He'll swipe at you, breathe some Ryan the Temp ice as hot as fire at you, pounds on you, and he likes to summon bugs. All you really need to do is dodge his abilities while waiting until he stands upright to summon the bugs, at which point you can run up to him and hammer him with a sword or mace. I'd think that ranged is also a good play here, but magic felt very weak against him, especially with the wands, and that's mostly due to the low range that the wands have. Killing this big fuck landing me the Dethroned achievement. Looting its corpse gives you its head trophy, a legendary ring, and a key that you can use to go impersonate the King in the North. Unfortunately, sitting on the throne doesn't have the power to wash away the impacts of Season 8, which can be seen littered throughout the throne room. In the corner of said room, I found a path up to the tower that led me to a full cosmetic set of royal gear, so I equipped that and continued onward. And by onward, I meant out onto the walkway, where I jumped to a nearby tower and found the final piece of the Guard in the North armor set, landing me the Pieces of the Past achievement. Here's what that looks like. It's easily my favorite armor set in the entire game from a cosmetic perspective, but it does come with a trade-off of providing 3.5 less minutes in the Shroud timer. So basically, it's a solid set to have if you have shroud potions, or just don't wear it when you're hunting for shroud roots. Or just be like me and wear it as a cosmetic item while keeping all of the effects of your current armor. While at the pike, I also managed to find a kettle, meaning I can now craft a cooking station and automate that process. No more spending 10 plus minutes doing nothing but cooking food at the fireplace. Anyway, with the Revelwoods fully completed, I upgraded my flame again and made plans to embark on my journey to the Highlands. But before I do that, I'm gonna piss off some Enshrouded purists. See, there lies a hidden legendary glider deep in the bottom right of the map. We're underleveled for it substantially, but there is a way to scoop it up, which will help immensely with the flame shrines and all that collection junk I still need to complete. The only problem is that in order to pull off this feat, I need to utilize some cheese. So, thanks to the help of Spire and his 37-minute guide, I packed my bags and headed to the Sun Temple off in the distance. The journey itself takes about 30 minutes and involves a number of steps from taking the correct pathing to looping around or through cities, and even a small build section where you need to build up a ramp and pull off a leap of faith across a shroud zone that'll insta-kill you. It wasn't all bad though. I did manage to scoop up some better weapons, such as a new wand and a battle axe that I'll be rocking as soon as I get some upgrades into. But yeah, all of that leads you to the Kindle Waste Spire, which earned me the Kindle Waste Stargazer achievement. After reaching the temple, I jumped through an opening in the side, busted out a window, and sprinted up the stairs until I found a grapple spot, which took me up to the top of the tower. From there, I climbed the fencing and located the gold chest, obtaining the ghost glider and checking off the Winged Victory achievement. So how good is this thing? Well, compared to my advanced glider, it has 100% more range, 10 more speed, and only costs 1 additional stamina per second. It's far and away the best glider I have available to me at the moment, and one that I'll be using for the remainder of the playthrough. This actually couldn't have come at a better time because this video is due to be published in 10 days, which means I have to get a draft done within the next 6 days, and we still have 19 achievements to go with that. So, welcome to the Highlands. This place is mainly for side quests. A ton of the survivor quests bring you through here, and it almost serves as like a regrouping portion before you head into the Kindle Wastes. The goal here is to stock up on supplies, unlock better armor, and keep it moving. For a normal player. But I'm not normal. I'm special. And since I'm wearing my special Mommy Loves Me helmet, and the fact that there aren't any mainline quests to follow, I'm really just here for the achievements. Starting with the Spire. Now, reaching the Spire, much like all the others, landed me the Nomad Highlands Stargazer achievement, and with that, we're officially on the board for the Highlands. Next up, finding an obelisk to ping the other obelisks on the map, and then teleporting back to the Spire so I can glide my way on over to them. Alright, not an obelisk, but I'll take a shroud route. Oh cool, a shroud sarlacc pit with ninja hair. Nice. So I've been going about this all wrong. I was just using the waypoints I'd hit along the way to obtaining the glider, and didn't think to just go back to the Pillars of Creation entrance. So, I just did that, and after dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodging my way through several traps, I managed to stumble into the final obelisk at the very end of it, which gave me the Nomad Highlands Secret Keeper achievement. God, that's a mouthful. Next up is mining all valuable materials. I do have tin bars, but I don't need the bars. I need the ore, along with the fossilized bones, but those can be mined from the giant skeletons lying around the biome.
Remember a while back when I mentioned the gem forges? Well, throughout my journeys in the Highlands and Kindle Wastes, I've accumulated a handful of gems, so it's time to go upgrade my gear. Gems apply bonuses to weapons if the weapon has a gem slot to place them in. These bonuses range from extra damage, stack damage that applies to enemies you hit, or some pretty OP ones, such as adding shroud time onto your timer when you kill enemies with that weapon. For my axe, I went with the Gem of Agility, which gives you 11 additional damage and 35 stamina when hitting an enemy after dodging an attack. My new wand didn't have a gem slot, but my staff did, so I added the Gem of Hopeful Embers to it, which allows me to replenish time on the shroud timer while it's below 2 minutes and 47 seconds. I'll try those out in a bit though. For now, it's back to flame shrines because there's a ton of them. After checking off 4 more flame shrines, I entered a cave passage and walked into a tin ore node, so I mined that until my pickaxe broke, earning me the Mole of the Nomad Highlands achievement. As a quick break from flame shrines, I decided to take on another mini-boss, a VUCA Brawler. All it really did was jump around, which was super easy to dodge with my blink ability. Killing the brawler and looting it gave me Jasmina's Apotheosis, I think is how you pronounce it. I don't know. It's a legendary one-handed axe. With the battle won, I spent a good 20 minutes or so completing both the blacksmith and masonry tools quests, placing those in the base, which allowed me to build out my own wells. Now with those wells, it'll take time for them to refill, so in the meantime, I started hitting up some unknown areas, taking on shroud enemies and practicing some new combos I'd added to my arsenal. This entire process in the Highlands is kind of a fever dream if I can be real. Like 75% of the shroud routes and flame shrines are all pocketed in one section where some are way above ground and others are like a few hundred feet down. And then you get shit like the Resident Evil temple at the end of a very deep shroud void. These were, without a doubt, the biggest pain in the asses to check off, and honestly, I'd like to just forget about them as quickly as possible. In total, it took me around 5 hours to find all of the flame shrines and sanctums. Could I have done it in like 30 minutes without a guide? Sure, but it's way more entertaining for you guys if you get to listen to me bitch and moan for a few seconds instead. Seriously, this is what I'm trying to navigate through. It sucks. That being said, I did pump a ton of upgrades into things like stamina boosts and shroud timer boosts, allowing me to go from like 8 minutes up to almost 15 minutes in the shroud. Anyway, I managed to check off the final flame shrine, giving me the Spark of the Nomad Highlands achievement, something that only 1.2% of players have completed at the time of recording. Funny enough, I thought I was in the Highlands still, but ended up in the Kindle Waste while en route to another Elixir well. As luck would have it though, as I landed on a hillside, I landed directly in front of an obelisk that wasn't even marked on the map at the time. Walking up to it landed me the Kindle Waste's Secret Keeper achievement, bringing me up to 31 of 45 completed. In the middle of wrapping up the shroud routes in the Highlands, I fought and killed another mini-boss who dropped Shadowbane, a unique legendary bow that I'll be holding on to. What was the boss guarding? Well, a tanning station that I didn't know existed. Anyway, you want to know what really grinds my gears about Elixir wells? The shroud route will oftentimes be hundreds of feet away from the actual marker, in some instances requiring me to spend 15 minutes digging up the side of a hill in order to reach a shroud route. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, good god does it suck. Those aside, I was able to clear out the final shroud route in the Highlands, obtaining the Nomad Highlands Weeding achievement, which currently holds an 8.9% completion percentage. With that though, it's time to upgrade my flame and head into the Wastelands. The only thing left to grab for the upgrade is a fell monstrosity head, which can be found right next to the Spire. The boss itself was pretty simple. I just spammed my wand at it and dashed out of the way when it shot its shroud balls at me. The boss has a pretty unique look as well, rocking a skin of San Diego, or as Ron Burgundy would refer to it,
a whale's vagina.
While killing the monstrosity doesn't award an achievement, hitting level 20 sure does. With the battle won, I took the head back to my flame altar and upgraded it to tier 5, which means it's time for more flame shrines and shroud roots, but this time in the Kindle Wastes. The goal here was to simply finish off all of the shroud roots and flame shrines, and then return to cover some quests to boost my gear up before taking on the final boss. With that, welcome to the Kindle Wastes. It's basically if Arizona had pterodactyls flying around. I'm pretty sure those are actually baby dragons or some offset of dragons, but I'm not 100% certain what the names are for them, but I don't really think it matters. At my first Elixir well, I came across a new boss, Jabba the Hutt from Temu. In all seriousness, I do really like that each zone has new enemies to fight that aren't just reskins of the same enemies over and over again. The bugs have received an upgrade as well, really having taken lessons from the monkey bar guys. Another aspect of the Kindle Waste that I was able to show off briefly is the temples. These sun temples count towards flame shrines, so in order to get the Secret Keeper achievement for this biome, you need the flame shrines, flame sanctums, and all of the temples. After knocking out a few more flame shrines, I made a controversial decision and went back to base to fully respec my character. Listen, I love the Battle Mage set, but the hemotoxin that I've had for weeks now isn't going away, and to craft a cure, I need spider glands. When I look up the item on the wiki, I'm told that they drop from spiders, but when I click on the spider mob, the only drops are critter parts and string, which checks out considering I've killed hundreds by this point and haven't gotten a single spider gland. So, instead of relying on mana, I decided to become off-brand Legolas. But before I do that, I wanted to craft some better ranged armor, which requires me to complete some more of the hunter quests so I can unlock a loom. All of this is just a roundabout way of me saying it's back to questing. First things first, crafting dog food. Next, it's over to Thornhold to find a stray dog. After finding it, you have to throw the dog bait over and then sneak up and pet it, which, let's be real, best part of the entire game, hands down. With our legendary pupper secured within the safety of the base, I placed a dog bed and filled his bowl with food, completing the quest. So far, I've completed 48 quests, and I still have, 30 more to go. most of which are finding other survivors and villagers who also come with their own set of 4 to 6 quests apiece. Since there currently aren't any new hunter quests, I got to work focusing on any other mainline survivor quests, such as finding a black cauldron for the Alchemist, taking on Rotunda Sizemore in an epic duel in an arena, hunting down some limestone blocks, fucking around with explosives to find some magic boots, found and placed a plant and seedling and a few other things until eventually I was prompted to complete the Loom for Hunter quest. While pushing through a cave passage en route to the loom, I mined up some iron ore, giving me the Mole of the Kindle Wastes achievement. After reaching the town though, I found an underground portion and scooped up the loom, bringing it back to base, which finally allowed me to craft some high quality armor. It's going to take a while for the fabric to be created for that armor though, so while that was going on, I found the A Cure for Hemotoxin side quest and gave that a shot. Why did it have to be spiders? Am I just an idiot? Like, I know the answer to that, but where the hell were these when I was in the cave before? Funny enough, it was easier to find the spider glands at this point than it was to locate the moths. Moths are only available at night and in the Revelwoods, and tend to hang out around bushes. So by the time the sun rose, I only found 3, meaning I still needed 2 more. So while I waited for the sun to set again, I checked off a few more flame shrines. I ended up adding 3 shrines and a temple to the list before night fell, at which point it was back to the Revelwoods to find 2 more moths so that I could finally rid myself of the hemotoxin that had been plaguing me from the beginning. With that, I have basically everything I need to craft some armor. It's just a matter of waiting for the flax plants to grow, so while I wait for that to finish up, it was over to the Alchemist quest to set up a lab for him. If it isn't obvious yet, a large majority of the quests are go here, read this note, which marks a new spot on the map. Go to that new spot, read note, repeat 2 to 3 times, and then go to one final spot to collect the item you're looking for. It's a good way to unlock new portions of the map, but it does really start to drag when there's only one of you, and you have to do this style of quest like 30 times in a row. Regardless, I managed to place a laboratory, harvest all the flax, and craft some new ranger armor before upgrading the Shadowbane bow. In a complete flip from the norm, I refunded my entire skill tree, and instead spec'd into the assassin, ranger, beastmaster, and survivor trees, opting for a full ranger build. Just look at that sweet, sweet stamina bar. I know I touched on it during the Highlands, but it's really cool to see the new enemies in the shrouds. And I don't know if it's just the different armor, or if they do really just hit that hard, but the enemies feel like a significant upscale from the Highlands. That being said, that didn't stop me from hitting up all the shroud roots and elixir wells. After destroying a few of them though, I did make a quick pit stop over at a temple where I found the Elder chest piece, which just looked fucking sick. Back to the shrouds though. There is one elixir well that almost broke me. Like, borderline run ender broke me. So, remember earlier how I was saying that sometimes, especially in these later zones, the shroud roots won't line up with where the elixir well is? Well, that's the case here, but it gets worse. The fog in this region is so dense that it's practically impossible to even see what you're supposed to be looking at. What that isn't explicitly told to you or mentioned, and requires you to almost have to get lucky with how you find it. And I know some of you are probably saying, well, you could just use that wisp of light potion that gives you that little light ball that floats above your character. And to that I say, the next time it's foggy by you, go take a flashlight and point it out in the fog and tell me what you can see. The answer is not much. And that's the same case with Enshrouded. Now, truth be told, and again, maybe this is just a big skill issue for me, but this took me over an hour to find, and the only way I found it was by sifting through over a dozen Reddit and Steam discussion posts where a bunch of people were having the same issue until someone said they just dug down through the rubble next to the ladder near the flame checkpoint where they found a path. So I copied that, but it doesn't end there. Not only does the fog persist down here, but there's multiple paths that you need to find and dig through, and the only way I even identified them off the jump was the fact that there were mobs spawning behind the dirt that was giving off audio cues. Next up comes a parkour section that's actually really fucking cool. It's high stakes too, because if you fall, you'll land in the red shroud, which instantly drains your timer, killing you. Whether you go up or down, you'll find 2 chests, one with the red shroud giving me a solid bow. Just on the other side of the parkour section, I blew up a few barrels, revealing the shroud root behind it. Guarding that motherfucker, a new ghost shroud enemy that yeets sickles and ghost skulls at you, appropriately named the Sickle Scythe Skull. I wish that was the last one, but there's one that's even better. Sick and tired of having to find random barriers in the rubble? Well, what if we took a shroud root and completely encased it beneath hundreds of feet of stone, and then cocooned it in a bunch of shit? It would take 2 additional shroud roots before I finally received the Kindle Waste weeding achievement, something that only 6.7 of the player base had completed at the time of recording. All of the flame shrines were active here, so the last thing on my list was a soul sun temple in the south. After gliding over to it, I cosplayed as Tarzan for a bit, figured out a floor puzzle by flying over it, then shot a few targets before unlocking the front door and interacting with the flame, giving me the Spark of the Kindle Waste achievement, holding a 1.3% completion rate. Somehow, still better than Anthony Richardson. Anyway, before upgrading my flame altar and heading to the next biome, I tried to add a gem slot to a secondary bow, only to end up hitting level 25 and obtaining the Impressive Journey achievement. The only thing I'm missing for the next flame tier is 40 saffron, which I'm currently growing in the front yard. So while I waited for the plants to be ready for harvest, I set off to knock out some more quests, considering I still need the achievements for levels 30 and 35. The first quest I wanted to start with was Illuminate the Night, a quest that I'd outleveled close to 40 hours of game time ago, but one that offered a whopping 2,000 experience for completing. If you need a good example of how over-leveled I am for this quest, the temple features 2 hole traps. Meanwhile, I've been completing spires that have well over a dozen. Regardless, I rescued the soul and summoned him to reveal a barber. I don't have a need for a barber though, so I threw him in the shack with the other villagers that I don't have a need for at the moment. For another quest, I found myself back at the Hollow Halls under the guise of obtaining an ectoplasm press for the collector. This one's got a Cyclops boss in it, so I figured what better way to kill some time than by fighting a new boss. One that I'm, again, apparently well over-leveled for, at that. This dungeon felt very similar to the original, at least in terms of its layout. You still get swarmed by skeletons and have to collect runes to progress. But the biggest difference, at least up front, was that there's skeleton spawners now. That, and the fact that some of these rooms are absolutely massive. It would take an hour or so of traversing the dungeon before finally reaching the boss, a giant bone Cyclops. The entire fight took less than a minute, mainly because I was 10 levels above the recommended target. Looting the corpse gave me a skull trophy and unlocked access to the Highlands key, but given that I couldn't knock out a single level in the entire dungeon, I'll likely opt to continue with other quests. This led me to places like the Blackmire Spire, though there wasn't an achievement for searching it or reaching it like the others. That being said, I really like this one's design, as there's a giant tree growing around the spire, and you actually have to use the tree and some foliage growing out of the spire to climb to the top, instead of dodging traps along the way. Now I still needed more saffron, so after harvesting all of it, I opted to replant another 50, which will put me over the top to upgrade the altar. Back to questing. I took out a tribe of Care Bears, completed the mysterious Wanderer quest by looting a gold chest, and impersonated Indiana Jones in the Helping Hands questline, all to gain 1 level. With the quest completed, it was back to the overcrowded house to harvest my saffron and finally upgrade the flame altar, unlocking a snowy mountainous biome known as the Alchemist Peaks. In an effort to finish off some more grindy portions of the game, I opted to start with the Spire, Obelisks, Flame Sanctums, and Shroud routes, since those are by far the most tedious to deal with. As I reached the cave passage, the location of the Spire was marked on my map, so that became my sole target. The roided out Ewoks now drop fatty meat that can be cooked into beef stew, or just cooked in general to provide frost resistance. So I started collecting as many as I could, since I have a feeling meals are going to become even more of a necessity than they already were. At first glance, the Shroud enemies appeared to be the exact same as the Kindle Waste, though I'm sure that'll change as I push deeper into the summits. ThatGuyPredz here. Not the case. This is the first biome in the entire game, at least to my knowledge, where the enemies remain the exact same. Speaking of the Shroud though, as I continued towards the Spire, I walked directly into a Shroud route being defended by a fell monstrosity. Meaning we're well past brutes now, and this beautiful Honey Boo Boo Midlands boss is here to take their place. The fight itself again was fairly easy, mainly because my build is practically complete by this point, thanks in large part to hitting every fucking Shroud route in the game. The best part wasn't even defeating the boss or destroying the Shroud route. It was the fact that I stumbled into a bunch of amethyst that unlocked me new hunter gear. Oh, I forgot to mention, the summits are on the other side of Mordor's Black Gate, which is why you need to take a cave passage to get here. I really like that, because it helps to give a more beyond the wall feel to the biome. There it is, the Spire. Now I just gotta figure out how the fuck I'm gonna get over there. The wolf enemy type out here are saber-tooths, I think. Either that or direwolves, but I'm feeling saber-tooths. But accompanying them, the fine citizens of Alaska. So the way up the mountain is mainly these little wind tunnels that push you up, similar to the updraft ability. While climbing the mountain, I found an obsidian node and began mining that out. Since that didn't land me an achievement, there's gotta be at least one more valuable material out here to find. Well, that was easy. Picking up silver gave me the Mole of the Albanese Summits achievement, which currently holds a 7% completion rate. Now, it is worth noting that with the summits being the final biome so far, all of the completion rates for the achievements are incredibly low because a hefty amount of players don't even make it out here, let alone achievement farm. Anyway, walking about 50 feet to the west unlocks the Spire, giving me the Albanese Summits Stargazer achievement, which has a 9.3% completion rate. That kind of threw me off because you pass all of the valuable materials on your way over here. So that means people were choosing to skip those resources just to reach the tower. That doesn't really make sense to me, but you do you, I guess. In a rather unique twist, the floors of the Spire level are covered in ice, forcing you to slide around and adding an extra layer of difficulty to the obstacle course. One of my favorite layouts so far is the giant lava pool room, where you need to jump into it, ride the fumes up, and dodge balls of lightning that are shooting at you. Now, you don't have to hit the buttons here, but doing so unlocks the chest on the ground floor, giving you the head pounder sledgehammer. It looks dope as shit, but since I'm not a tank, I don't really have a need for it. Reaching the top, much like the other spires, marks all of the Elixir wells on your map. I'll target those in a bit, but for now, my focus is on the Obelisks. Unfortunately, before I do that, I'll need to figure out how to get around the impending hypothermia. So, there's a few options. I'm just kidding, it's armor. You need armor and food, that's it. To craft that armor, I'll need a variety of items from around the summits, while also crafting a spinning machine. You can also get a ring of frost by completing an obstacle course right behind the summit spire. Since I also needed some loot from defeated shroud enemies, I figured the best way to unlock better armor was to simply begin targeting the Elixir wells. It does seem that all of the land beneath the spire doesn't require any frost resistance gear. It's only the land past it where it becomes a problem. Oh look, another brute. Guess they weren't phased out. With another shroud root destroyed, I returned to base and built out a spinning machine. Now I need to find some wool to get this thing working. While I do love the fact that the final biome requires you to explore it to find specific items needed to craft refined items that you then use to craft gear, again, I strongly encourage you to get a group of friends to play through this with because it is a grind solo. That being said, I really like that one of the more valuable materials, being silver ore, can primarily be found in the shroud, which only further encourages you to explore it instead of sticking to the bluffs. Throw in the fact that I need a shit ton of enshrouded ice, which can only be obtained via mushrooms inside the shroud, and you've got a perfect recipe for me to spend several hours in the fog. With some basic resistance, I can last about 3 minutes in the cold, but it's better than nothing, and it does reset as long as I can find a building to recover it. Honestly, the worst part of this grind came purely from the yaks. There's a quest for you to tame a few of them, but for whatever reason, I thought it would just be faster if I hunted them. It was not. Just follow the damn quest. The problem with the quest, though, is that you need to make yak bait, which requires a ton of items from all different biomes, including flatbread, which requires an oven to unlock the recipe for that, which I don't have yet. You can really tell that this is meant to be more tailored to each player in a group filling a role. Like, let me just break this down real quick. I'll pick just the heated padded armor. So I need armor with frost resistance, right? Well, to make that armor, I need heated padding. To make that, I need wool. To get wool, I need raw wool. To get raw wool, I need to kill or tame yaks. The game wants you to tame yaks, but to do that, you need yak bait. To make yak bait, you need 5 items, one of which requires an oven and a recipe to make flatbread, which requires several additional resources to make said flatbread. And that is one of the 5 or 6 items needed to craft one piece of a 5-piece armor set, and now my eye is twitching. It's a phenomenal crafting system, but good god is it frustrating when you're the only one able to progress it. It took about 2 hours for me to acquire all of the items needed to craft some frost resistance armor, at which point the flame altar spit out another quest for me to complete. Ignite the coldest elixir well. The reward? What looks to be the fell version of a cyclops, like the one I just defeated in the Revelwood's Hollow Halls dungeon. Well, let's get to it. Getting to the shroud route was a bit easier than expected, partially because I found out I could cheese the updraft and then double jump up the siding to destroy the route from behind. What followed was a really enjoyable boss fight between myself and a fell cyclops. Everything was going really well, until I made literally one mistake and glided instead of healing, causing me to lose my entire health pool in just a few seconds. Alright, round 2. the Cyclops head can be used to upgrade the flame altar, but I'll focus on that later, mainly because I need a shit ton of resources to do that, and I don't have half of them yet. Next up, the Forge of Obsidia. Not on purpose though. I was trying to find a way to the Obelisk on the other side of a mountain and ended up here, but I do know that this is an important location, mainly because there's a boss here. Killing the Tyrant gave me some bellows, which can be used to craft a blast furnace. And real quick, the Tyrant, excellent mini boss design. He's got a whip, he's got sickles, it's great. Just another unique boss for the biome. Back to the blast furnace though. Said blast furnace allows me to craft steel and silver bars using coal as the fuel, which can be found in the Albany summits. Both of these are used for better armor, so it's worth making a few of those whenever I can. Now while exploring the mountains, I came across white pine, and honestly, it reminded me a ton of Castle Black from Game of Thrones. Aside from that, it was a pretty easy path down to the first obelisk, which marked 11 flame shrines on the map, which means it's time to get to work. To help with traversing the lands, I placed a flame altar on the tallest mountain I could find. That'll serve as an impromptu spire for me to make jumps from. After knocking out several shrines, I took a small break to complete a quest to kill another Cyclops. This one was hidden in the deep depths of a cave, but was just as easy to take down, allowing me to hit level 30 and unlock the Climbing to New Heights achievement. As soon as that was completed though, it was back to shrine hunting. That lasted for one single shrine before I stumbled onto a balefire. I didn't know it at the time, but this is actually one of 8 that are needed to summon the final boss. I just thought it was pretty cool that I happened across it while hunting flame shrines. Speaking of the balefires, it's time to upgrade the flame altar to level 7 and unlock that quest. Don't worry, there's still some work to be done before I activate it, but it's nice to have it queued up and ready to go. It's also a necessity to hit the shroud roots and elixir wells far in the north that I couldn't access before. To bolster my frost resistance, I crafted another piece of high tier armor, replacing my level 18 gloves with level 33 ones that offered a significant damage increase, almost double the protections, and some extra frost resistance. Maybe a change of plans if I can't get to the remaining shroud roots. The goal was to do all of this and then end with the final boss fight, but it looks like I'll need to kill the dragon in order to get the final upgrade to be able to access these final shroud root locations. Also, I'm so sorry, I don't know when I hit this, but I just checked the achievement list and apparently I hit the Spark of the Albany Summits, which is the rarest achievement in the game, boasting a completion percentage of 0.4%. Again, no idea how I missed that, but it happened at some point. Regardless, I need to upgrade my flame altar one more time, which means it's back to questing. Specifically, the Alchemist's Wisdom questline, since I need it to craft the Maw Vine, or however the hell you pronounce it. Luckily, I'd already made some decent progress on it. The entire quest involves finding pieces of a map or like plans at various locations, and then combining the pieces together to plaster onto a wall. Now that the recipe's unlocked, it's off to mine some active mycelium that we need for the first ingredient. Mycelium can be found anywhere in the shroud, but the active version of what we need is literally just those piles of glowing blue mushroom-esque variants. See, to make the Mulvaney dust, I need to first craft shroud vapor. All we're gonna need at this point is some more tar, and then it's a waiting game. Literally. In the meantime, I can go ahead and light all 8 beacons. They're super easy to find, all you need to do is look for the giant red beam shooting up into the air. I swear, I could just fly around this game for hours. It's, at least to me, it's akin to sailing in Valheim. Alright, well it only took about 20 minutes for me to fly around and hit all 8 beacons, so dragon time? Now, I'm sure there's like an actual path to follow, but I'm stubborn, so instead of seeking that out, I just started scaling the mountain. There you are. This is, I think, everyone's least favorite boss fight in the entire game. And I get it, but also being a ranger, I don't necessarily agree. I know it might just be because I was a ranger and it's meant for that kind of fight. But I do understand. You're in the shroud, but you're also dealing with cold ticking down on you. It's foggy, there's a lot going on, and the dragon can just vaporize you with several abilities that are pretty hard to dodge unless you're constantly zooming around the map. I can't imagine this even being possible with a melee build, so some players will definitely have to respec before fighting the dragon, which can suck if you're spending dozens, if not over 100 hours with a melee build, getting used to that, perfecting that, and then now you have to switch. In my opinion, it feels like you're almost forced to go with a ranger here. Even using a wizard or any magic kit seems like it'd be a huge pain in the ass, because again, wands have a very short range, so you'd have to use a staff, and I don't know, I feel like ranger is the play here. In the end, though, it wasn't the shroud or even the dragon that killed me. It was fucking hypothermia. This, honestly, if I can be candid for a second, is the dumbest mechanic in the game. In my opinion, if I'm already having to worry about a shroud timer, I don't want to also have to worry about a freeze timer, or if you're going to make me do that, I don't want to do that while battling the final boss. It takes away from the fight substantially, because I spend more time focusing on how much timer is left in my countdown than I do the actual boss fight. Now, I did manage to find the actual pathway up for my second attempt, but again, it took several minutes of glide jumping and grappling to reach the dragon. So by the time I was even ready to start fighting it, I'd already burned through a quarter of my frost resistance timer. It's because of this that I don't even feel bad that the dragon appeared to be glitched and stuck in one spot, allowing me to headshot him out of existence. Killing the dragon nets me the King of the Mountains achievement, something that only 3.8% of the player base has obtained, meaning that only 3.8% of any player who has touched Enshrouded has beaten the final boss. Looting this bad boy nets me his head and a legendary Forsaken bow. I still had a few minutes left before my Mulvaney powder was ready for use, so I took some downtime and went for a quick walk, returning as it finished. With the flame now at level 8, I'm clear to go ahead and start hitting up the remaining shroud roots. The final 3 achievements are down to 1. Eliminating all shroud roots in the summit biome, 2. Finding the second obelisk, and 3. Reaching level 35, something that I planned on hitting while hunting down those shroud roots. After dicking around in the shroud for about 20 minutes, I flew around until locating the final obelisk, checking off the Biomes Summit's Secret Keeper achievement with a current completion percentage of 1.9%. Nope, we're not doing that again. Over the course of about 2 hours, I hunted down the remaining shroud roots before finally earning the Biomes Summit's Weeding achievement, currently holding a completion percentage of exactly 1%. At this point, all that was left to do was farm enemies in the shroud to burn through the remaining 3 levels. And there you have it, a sub 80-hour journey in less than 5 days of recording. My god. My first ever playthrough of Enshrouded. Having said that, I still feel like there's so much content that I haven't had the chance to talk about, dissect, or show off. Things like the remaining Hollow Hall dungeons, the whole arc involving building a small village, taming pets. I mean, I could go on and on. There's just so much this game has. And even after logging close to 100 hours, I feel like I could easily drop another 100 on the extra content alone. I want to give a very heartfelt thank you to Keen Games, who sponsored this video and really just kind of let me do whatever I wanted. Overall, this has to be one of the best survival craft games I've ever played, right up there alongside Valheim. The combat is incredibly addicting and by far my favorite part. I would have liked to see more achievements centered around things like taming a pet, completing all the Hollow Hall dungeons, and other stuff like that, as opposed to just flame shrines and shroud roots. Well, it's not to say I wasn't enjoying myself the entire time. I definitely was. I'm gonna go touch grass now, though. Until next time, I appreciate you all. Go call a loved one, and thanks for stopping by.